If you are watching this video, you probably have entered a new stage in your life, and you decided you are going to move in together with your significant other or are about to get married. First off, I want to congratulate you on this big step. However, today we are talking about the financial aspect of a relationship. Finances are somewhat of a delicate topic to be discussing with your significant other, so this definitely isn't going to be a walk in the park. Even so, it is something that is very important to do early on in the relationship, especially since it can cause a lot of stress and even resentment later on in the relationship. I will discuss a couple options, tips and tricks in this video, and then it is up to you and your partner obviously to discuss which of these options fits your situation the most. There are three main routes you can take to manage your finances as a couple. They aren't completely mutually exclusive to one another. Let me clarify. Since both of you probably already have a checkings and a savings account, it is an option to split the bills and just each pay some of the bills coming your way. This is, however, incredibly difficult to keep track of and also poses a lot of other issues. Like, for example, what if some bills are more expensive, like mortgage or rent? Do you split those in half, or are you going to keep an Excel to accurately divide the costs? Personally, I'm not too fond of this system as there are better alternatives. But it can be used if you are going to co-house with one or more people. The next step towards more joint finances is to open a separate account where you put a portion of your monthly income and still both keep your own checkings and savings accounts. There are two ways of doing this. For example, you can discuss a fixed amount with your partner that needs to be deposited onto the account each month to pay the bills. Or you can use a percentage of your income. The latter is obviously more advantageous to the partner earning less, but maybe the partner who earns more might not agree to this. This depends entirely on both your outlooks on finances. Whatever you choose, it is then up to you both to decide how to use this joint account. Is this strictly for the monthly costs, or will you also use this account for date nights, travel, or even clothing? In this case, it might also be beneficial to maybe open a joint savings account. You want to avoid fights later on, so it is important to discuss these things in depth. The benefit of this system is that you can simply pay all your bills with one account that you manage together and that you still save a little bit with your private account. And with this account, you can do whatever you want without feeling guilty. My partner and I use a variation of this system ourselves. I am quite frugal on that point, but I tend to spend a lot more on electronics. So we decided that clothing and electronics isn't bought with our joint checkings account. One of the benefits is that even though we have a similar outlook on finances, we never have to feel guilty or explain ourselves about buying something for ourselves since we saved for it. Another small benefit is that if you want to buy or plan something as a surprise, that this is also a lot easier to do with separate accounts. So, when should you use this form of financial management in a relationship? In most cases, some variation of this system is best for young couples to somewhat manage your finances together without all the splitting the bills hassle. For most people, this is also one of the more obvious choices even in older relationships. Especially so if you both have a different outlook on personal finance and spending money. If one of you two is a notorious spender and the other a frugal saver, this is the obvious route to take. Again, these rules aren't supposed to be set in stone, but simply used as guidelines. And if you do wish to deviate from them for one reason or another, to force you to discuss these things with your significant other. Third, we have the full joint accounts. This means that you have each decided you want to have just one checkings account for both of you and want to merge all finances. This means depositing both your full incomes on one account and paying for everything with said account. The obvious benefit is simplicity. You only need to manage one account together and can track spending together. which means you also have to communicate a lot, especially before making big purchases in order to avoid conflict or tension in the relationship. Another advantage is that if one of the partners is earning significantly more, it is immediately beneficial also for the other partner. However, there are some obvious downsides as well. The aforementioned tension when you want to make one or more, especially expensive purchases, is one of them. You also can't secretively buy something for each other, and there is another downside that might not be obvious immediately and will depend a lot on the specific law of your country, but a joint account means that should the relationship go sour and in the future you decide to separate, your spouse will, here in Belgium for example, be entitled to half what is on that account. This will not be an issue if you both earn the same throughout the years and spend about the same, but it will be if, for example, one of you works part-time and the other earns substantially more. This is something that you need to check up on with your local country's law and might be different in your case. While it isn't fun to prepare for a divorce or separation, but it is something that is best to be discussed early on in the relationship, at least to a certain degree. This form of joint accounts is best for couples who have been together for a long time and have the same outlook on finances and spending and don't want the hassle of separate accounts. It definitely isn't a good idea if one of you both is a notorious spender and the other isn't. As said before, these are the three basic options, but they aren't completely mutually exclusive. It is perfectly possible to, for example, buy everything with the joint account, deposit a fixed percentage of your wage onto that account each month, and still have a separate account for either buying gifts or maybe go to the bar, for example. The best plan of action is to lay out these three options in front of your partner and then discuss the specifics. Here are a few examples of questions that you can ask. If you are not going for a joint account, how are you going to keep track of everything? And is everything going to be paid 50-50 or not? If you are going to go for a joint account, do you keep separate accounts as well? If you are, what are considered joint costs? And how much of your wages are you both going to deposit towards this account? Is it a fixed percentage or a fixed amount? And when do we need to discuss potential purchases with our joint account? These are just some examples of questions you can ask each other. The more in-depth you go, the less you will have issues later down the road. And especially if you are getting married, you really need to discuss these. Even more so if there is an income or asset disparity between the both of you. It is best to discuss what will happen with these assets when you get married. In some countries, whenever you get married, every asset or cash you had prior is now considered to be of the both of you. And in the case of a divorce, must be divided into two. While it might not be fair that, for example, if one of you has worked part-time to take care of the children and has no additional assets, in the case of a divorce gets next to nothing, it might also not be fair to entitle a non-working partner with half the assets of a partner who saved a lot during his or her prior career. Here it is important to again strike a balance between the both of you and discuss these things before you get married. A prenup is also a good idea for this, and it doesn't need to be a foul word. For example, if you want to have all your finances join in the future, but one partner already has a small apartment, you could state in the prenup that the apartment, or the money in the case it gets sold, stays of that partner. But everything earned or bought after getting married is property of the both of you, even if one partner earns significantly more. I really hope this video doesn't throw any dirt in your relationship and that this will help you both in becoming a stronger couple for the future. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe to stay tuned for more personal finance related content. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you next time.